Alright, so the money latest updates, the air code the eba and mo son for Mary Gold Marco Boy Bianwa mi be Jim na mo so mwetini ache mo adwen e we comment section e ase e de amai na ene de ya me no ka say de eye Dr. Ata Kennedy ono so oye founding member for MPP amayekone abamonte so ade nsembi abe tuja efa honorable Kennedy akompreku Japan after say MPP primaries ni ekwa awiye ensem a circulate ewo media ne so ena oche say ade asa Ghana for edo Kennedy akompreku Japan na wabamonte so abetwem the entire amount for ka ensem edefa ne kokoa chese eben no ensem bebre na Ata Kennedy ede nsem ne nchemu ina abeto emonte so ayebebohwe na yakotie ensem no se de emu nchemu esitie uwie a forget say obe subscribe to Ayehu TV obe like obe comment uwie nso ana wa share videos ne enso ede amai men se o mre bebre ne emorem na yakotie ensem ne bi emba.
So you think that Dr. Bawumia would emerge with the numbers that he emerged with, and how's your assessment of Kennedy and Brian particularly?
Yeah, I knew Bawumia would win because I was looking at the polling. I have, of course, since then listened to people try and interpret the polls. His vote went down. If you go from 62% to 58% in a country where the percentages matter, he took a step back, a bigger electorate and less votes. Brian and Kennedy Japan, I think Kennedy Japan took a step backwards. I think that in the end, in 4 years ago, he was the protest candidate, so he was a very good vehicle. I think people have had more of a chance to look at him, and there are a lot of people who admire him, but maybe they think his temperament will be a problem. I first realized he had a problem when a very senior media person, and I don't have his permission to mention his name, but he's a good friend of him, and he told me that Kennedy asked him, he said, so if I was the presidential candidate, would you vote for me? He said, no, I won't. And he said, oh, why? And he said, because I just think your temperament is a problem. He says, I have this nightmare of you going to the UN and somebody saying something bad about Ghana and you forgetting who you are, walking across and giving him a slap or something. So I think that his temperament has become, he has a lot of fine qualities, but in the end, his temperament let him down.
But Doc, Trump is president today.
Yeah, he is. But you see, we live in different, what do they call it, places. And Trump too was in effect a protest candidate. But the truth about Trump is that his communication may be off, but people like his delivery. He delivers, you know.
That's after the mandate is handed over to him.
Yeah, after the mandate is handed over
to him. Why didn't we try Kennedy then, see if you deliver or not?
It's a reasonable point. I think that in a certain sense, you could make that case, you know, that it might be that, and I do a lot of history, so I've seen a lot of candidates people had doubts about coming to office and turn out to be fairly exceptional leaders. For example, you know, FDR, who is considered the greatest president in American history, was considered a pampered daddy's boy. You know, people didn't think he would be even good enough to be a governor. And he went on to be the greatest president. So I do not necessarily think that the fact that Kennedy, for example, doesn't communicate, you know, as nicely as other people do necessarily means that he wouldn't have been a good president. I don't know that.
Okay. You were assessing him and then also Brian.
I think that Brian probably is the person who benefited most from this election. I think that people think he ran a good campaign. They think that he has a future. So he will do well in future. But I think though that the thing I take from this is the monetization. I think that in the end, what all of us across the political divide, MPP and NDC need to do is to demonetize, to democratize, to make more transparent and to make more inclusive our party process.